Today, I'm doing the impossible. I'm building an equal length and symmetrical exhaust for my 1500 horsepower, twin turbo, four-wheel drive Silverado. Now, the reason why I say this isn't possible and why you're never going to see another exhaust quite like this on a truck is because there's just not enough space. But on mine, there is, because instead of building the exhaust to fit around the truck, I spent the last 3 years building the truck to fit around the exhaust. And it sounds just like a Corvette. Luckily, the paint on my new GMC Daily Driver is in pretty good shape, especially considering the truck is 8 years old. But to help keep it looking that way and add a little bit of extra protection, today we're partnering with Avalon King, and I'm going to be installing their new Armor Shield 9. This is a DIY-friendly ceramic coating, which is perfect because I don't know anything about detailing, but once it's applied, it's going to create a protective non-stick barrier over the whole paint and glass and all that good stuff that's going to help repel road grime and dirt. But the best part is, it'll last 2 years. Now this is appealing to me because washing the truck is usually the last thing in the world that I have time for. And the Armor Shield 9 will keep it looking cleaner in between washes, which means I can wash it less frequently. It only takes about an hour and a half to coat the entire vehicle, and that even includes doing the glass. Each kit contains everything that you'll need to achieve a professional finish, which would typically cost thousands. But by doing it yourself, you can save a ton. You can apply Armor Shield to the paint, glass, plastic trim, chrome, and even the wheels, so all the hard surfaces get the same level of protection. So the Armor Shield 9 has been curing now for several days. It's actually been like 5 days since I applied it, and I just love watching the water bead off and flow right down the windshield and the hood. It's so cool to see, and that's just how it's going to keep the truck looking that much better, because any road splash or water or whatever, it's going to flow right off. But check this out. This right here, this is what does it for me. This bumper cover looks amazing. I've tried other products before to keep plastic like this looking good, and that right there, that's awesome. So to get the same level of protection for your car or truck, grab some Armor Shield 9 from Avalon King. A single kit is going to be enough to do most small to mid-sized cars, or if you got a bigger truck or SUV, you can grab a 2-pack. It's super easy to apply, but the best part is we got some savings for you. You can use code Tolman25. You can save $25 off your order. Check them out at the link below. Avalon King. To get the performance benefits and sound quality that we're after with an equal length system and symmetrical system, we got to start basically at the cylinder head. We have a pair of turbo manifolds you saw us install a little while ago, but they have the same overall size and shape from side to side, and the turbos themselves are mounted front and center up high in the engine bay. But this is where our challenge begins, because our exhaust system has to connect right here. And on the driver's side, there's a lot of obstacles. We have a fuse block, we have a brake booster, we have a steering shaft, a wire harness, or several wire harnesses actually, and some brake lines that we have to contend with. And the other thing is I didn't want to run a hood exit or a fender exit, at least not for like the street. Maybe at the track I'll build a second system with a second hood. But for the street mode, which is where this truck will probably spend a lot of its life, I wanted a full exhaust. So I got a bit of a head start and I built both of the downpipes, and believe it or not, these are within a half of an inch of each other from side to side. Started out with the driver's side because of course that had the biggest challenges that we had to kind of navigate around, and then on the passenger side I just matched up the angles and the lengths of the bend, kind of welded it all together. We have our bungs. I've got two of them in each downpipe, one for the narrow band and one for a wide band, and then of course we made our termination points exactly in the same spot, left to right. So the biggest challenge to building a symmetrical exhaust is all the stuff the factory puts in the way. My 2018 Denali is the perfect example of this. The factory exhaust, of course, has a Y pipe where it crosses over from driver to passenger side, and then the exhaust just runs down the passenger side all the way out the back. Now, the reason for this, of course, is stuff. We have fuel lines that run up there. We've got a bunch of wiring. We have a drive shaft with a transfer case. The big one, we have an ABS motor. We have some emissions related stuff, the charcoal canister and solenoids. And the big one, we have the fuel tank. All of those things are obstacles that prevent us from building a true symmetrical exhaust down either side of the frame. Now, I've spent a bunch of time over the last couple of years preparing for this exhaust build and solving all those problems that we just showed you on the 2018. I mean, even something like the front suspension, you might not think directly has anything to do with the exhaust, but we built our own custom coilovers, which allowed us to get rid of the torsion bars and the cross member because the exhaust is going to flow right through there. We built our own custom fuel lines. We built our own wiring harness. We got rid of the ABS pump that sits like pretty much right where my flex fuel sensor is, but this freed up pretty much all of that space for the exhaust. Further on down the line, we moved the fuel tank. It no longer sits right there. We got rid of the charcoal canister and all the brackets. Everything's been cleaned up, painted, modified, and moved to allow room for the exhaust to flow evenly and symmetrically down each side of the frame. You've probably noticed a few things about the way I like to build a vehicle. I don't care so much about the outward appearance. In fact, I love a sleeper, and the uglier, the better. But what I do care about and where I love to spend my efforts are on the mechanical aspects of the build. This particular truck is a 2003 Silverado, and while it doesn't look like much right now, every aspect of the drivetrain and chassis has already been customized and modified with the goal of making this an 8-second, 4-wheel drive, street-driven drag and drive sleeper. The rear axle and suspension have been upgraded to handle the power and put it to the ground. It has a transmission and transfer case from a 3/4 ton heavy duty truck, and the engine is a 6.2 liter all aluminum L92 from a later model Escalade, and attached to the engine are a pair of GTX 35 turbos that have a combined rating of 1,500 horsepower at the wheels. Now, I've been lucky enough to make a career out of building trucks long before I started on YouTube. I've worked on TV, on customer cars, and now I'm lucky enough to have my own shop. But one thing that has always remained consistent is my commitment to quality. Regardless of who sees the finished product, whether it's just me or a million other people, I always put in 100% effort, refuse to cut corners, and always try to build the next project a little bit better than the last. Part of the reason why I love building exhaust is because it's a combination of form and function. All an exhaust really needs to do is get the spent gases from the engine and route it away from the truck. And there's probably very few people who will understand this, but it's so much more than that. The exhaust is the soul of the vehicle. The sound it produces gives it a voice, and rather than settling for generic or off the shelf, I insist on 100% custom, no compromises, and I love trying something that I haven't seen before, or even things that others say is impossible. And I kind of like to think of the exhaust as my signature. When designing the system for this truck, I had a few items on the checklist. First and foremost, it had to be equal length, symmetrical, and use an X-pipe. Second, it has to support the power goals of the engine, so it's made from 3.5-inch material. Third, I want it to be serviceable, so I'm using V-band connections and a factory-style rubber hanger. And 4, I want it to have a good sound. So we got the first half of the exhaust system done, but it took a long time, especially when I need to fine-tune the angles of the bends. So I just got my favorite thing in the world, a new tool. It's in there. Has to do with that. We'll show you in a second. Now, this might be one of those ideas that's a little bit better in theory than in real life. Budget tools. Went to Harbor Freight and I picked up one of these, I don't want to say bad boys because it's kind of just like barely adequate, but it's a belt sander. We need some sort of way to flatten the ends of like these little wedge-shaped pieces. I use these. This is part of a bend. You can probably barely tell, but we made the transition, for example, here between the horizontal pipe and the one that comes downhill. And I try to cut them close on the chop saw, but if I get it off just a little bit, I end up taking my flap disc on the angle grinder and try to fine tune the angle, but that always leaves the plane of the end of the cut kind of wonky. That doesn't make for a good weld. So I've always wanted a nice belt sander to, you know, flatten out the ends of the pipes, but just a 120 volt, obviously, I probably should have just bit the bullet and bought a really nice industrial one, but I didn't want to do that. So as my good buddy Ben Franklin says, the bitterness of a poor deal remains long after the joy of a bargain, or something like that. But you get the gist. But it'll work for now. To date, I have spent an honest week building this exhaust. That's both downpipes, the X pipe, and 1/2 of the rear kind of rear mid section. That's a lot of cutting and grinding and fitting and welding, all to build an exhaust system when there's a million ways that we could have done it quicker. So the question is, why on earth am I spending so much time for something that could be honestly quite simple? Are we going to get a huge performance benefit from doing a symmetrical and equal length exhaust with an X pipe? No, I mean, there will be a small bump in power by having the X pipe in there because it'll kind of scavenge from side to side. But just the very fact that we have an exhaust on this could potentially reduce power a tiny bit compared to, say, a hood exit or a fender exit. So what about sound then? Are we going to get a benefit in sound exhaust note from this? Yes, definitely we are going to have some Corvette flavored exhaust notes coming out of this truck because, I mean, we are literally down to less than 1 inch of difference from side to side. So yes, we're going to have a really cool equal length sound, but we could have done that with one of those equalizer loops that everybody uses. Honestly, I think those are kind of dumb. I probably won't use one. But if you guys know me, you know that I love building custom exhaust. But I also hate building custom exhaust twice, meaning I hate doing the same thing over and over. Every single project truck that I do, whether it's for myself, for the show, for a customer, I try to do something a little bit different because it's a challenge, or that's just the way my brain works. It's kind of messed up, to be honest. But yeah, we've spent a week so far, and the main reason is because it's a challenge, because it's something that I haven't done yet. I have not once built an equal length symmetrical exhaust on a Silverado, but I've always wondered if it could be done. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort, but when I'm sitting underneath the truck looking up and I see the X pipe and how symmetrical everything looks, that's all it takes. For me, that's the reason why I do it. Because I can. And because it's hard. It's a challenge. You know, I initially planned on welding the mufflers directly to the X pipe, but this is already an awkward situation to put in just because of the size. But we got it. Oh yeah. Now this took entirely too much time and effort, but we have now created the impossible exhaust. They said you could never fit an equal length symmetrical X-pipe exhaust made from 3.5-inch material, no less, underneath a 4-wheel drive pickup truck, but we have done it. Now why have we done it? I still don't know. I guess really the only reason is because it satisfies that OCD part of my brain that said, let's try it. Let's see if we can do it. But now, even though it took a ton of work, seeing the finished product, it fits exactly how I thought it would. It looks amazing. It'll perform great. It's going to support the power goals that we have for this build. And it's like we've checked off every box except for the final one, which is sound. So let's start this thing up and see how it sounds. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Almost every single time that I've built a custom exhaust for something, I'll start the vehicle up and I'll kind of like it, but rarely, in fact, probably never, have I built a truck exhaust and I have been 100% happy with how it sounds. The closest was the S10, but this is a whole nother animal, guys. It's perfect. Literally, it sounds exactly how I want it to. The symmetry, the equal length, the X-pipe, it gives it that kind of high-pitched Corvette European sound. I love it. I mean, we'll tell when we get the truck out on the road and actually drive it, but just hearing it idle and rev in the shop, this is like, we nailed it. So even though it took 2.5 weeks plus to build this exhaust, it sounds so cool. I think from the front to the back, we're within 1.5 inch length from side to side. Mainly, I had to make a few adjustments just because the drivetrain's offset a little bit inside the frame. But, oh my goodness, guys, this sounds perfect. I am so happy. Worth the effort. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. And if you want to see the rest of this truck build to the same crazy OCD level that the exhaust just took, which, by the way, we're not done with the exhaust. Still more to go. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Come back soon. All right, this is a perfect demonstration of the scavenging effect and why an X-pipe helps produce more power. The air going through there creates a little bit of suction here and vice versa. And real quick, we're gonna do the after the show FAQ/tech session brain dump that it's a lot of this information I skip over while we're doing the main edit on the video, but it's good info. A lot of you guys ask questions and I'm really into the technical stuff. So here we go. What size is the exhaust? We start with a 3-inch downpipe. I go for exactly 2 bends, here and 3, and then we transition to 3.5. Why did we do that versus not starting with 3.5 directly at the turbo? For one, the turbine discharge is 3-inch. 2, not so much this side, but over on this side, I would not have been able to put a reducer or an expander, I guess, from 3 to 3.5 here and still have room to get that bend down and around the steering shaft. So everything is mandrel bent stainless steel. For materials, we used a Summit Racing Builders kit. They do have 3.5 now, which is pretty cool. And for the X-pipe, that is a Stainless Works X-pipe. Everything's TIG welded, of course. No, I don't back purge when I do exhaust work. I probably should. The only time I typically back purge on my own projects is when it's pre-turbocharger. Just mainly because of the extra time and added expense. Because if I'm back purging a whole 3.5-inch exhaust system, that's a ton of gas that it would take. Progress on the rest of the truck. We still are waiting on the intercooler. I don't have a cooling system in it now, so we only ran it very, very briefly. As far as the wastegates go, you might notice that they're not hooked up to anything just yet. I am not going to do a recirculated wastegate on this one for now. I'm going to run two 2-inch screamer pipes, I guess you'd call it, that kind of follow underneath the main downpipe, and they're going to terminate just kind of right here at the base of the firewall pointing down. Maybe if I get tired of that, we'll switch to a recirculated setup back in the 3.5-inch portion, but I did not want to try to recirculate the wastegate in the 3-inch system just because we want minimal back pressure. I left the back half of the system kind of incomplete. You may have noticed we just have some mechanics wire holding up the very last hanger at the end of the muffler. I did that because I wasn't positive if I'm going to like how these mufflers sound right out of the gate. I think I kind of like them, but we'll see. If I do like these mufflers, or if I decide to change them after driving it a little bit, I am going to put a V-band connector at the inlet of the muffler where you saw I have just those flat, like generic exhaust clamps holding things together right now. Tailpipes, my initial goal was to run a full tailpipe. I don't know if we'll continue that or not. Again, I kind of left things open-ended, one, because it took so much time up until this point, and two, I'm not sure if I want tailpipes or not. It kind of depends on the sound, but we did leave room when we built the rear suspension and anti-roll bar. It's going to be tight, but the exhaust can go over the axle. It'll come out and then run under the frame rail in between the leaf spring and the fuel tank, kind of through, well, I can't even see, but kind of through that area right there. Again, not entirely sure if we are going to run tailpipes or not, but we have the option. The muffler is a Flow FX 3.5. Not sure if I mentioned that yet. And the reason I chose that one is because I had the Flow FX on the Denali. I took it off because it was too loud on that truck for my tastes. But with two of them on here, I really like the sound. My goals, sound-wise, I just wanted something a little bit more aggressive but streetable in terms of volume level, of course. With equal length in the X-pipe, we really, really want that Corvette sound too. Maybe someday I'll just get rid of the mufflers altogether and I'll just have the straight pipe dump under the truck or full tailpipe. Still not sure. A lot left to go on this truck. Thank you guys for watching. Smooth criminal. You guys want to know a funny story? I'm embarrassed to share this. But when I was in middle school, I was just like starting to shave and stuff. I had a razor and I accidentally, kind of on purpose, shaved off a little bit of an eyebrow. And then I was like, you know what, at this point I got to commit. So I shaved them all off. And the next day on the school bus, I got the nickname Smooth Criminal.